Today's sponsor of the Vision Quest podcast is 920 Hat Company. Leather patch hats are in, and 920 Hat Company is here to hook you up with your very own custom hat. All patches are lasered on top-grade genuine leather and on popular brand hats like Richardson and FlexFit. Whether you're looking to show off your business or want a one-of-a-kind hat for yourself, 920 Hat Company can do it all. All the hats are handcrafted right in the Fox Valley, but worn across America. With over 500 hats in stock, they guarantee fast turnaround times. Honestly, Liam, looking at these hats, solid, right?
Yeah, they're pretty. I like them.
I like that patch itself.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, one-of-a-kind stuff. I know his name's Trevor. He does great work. He's actually gotten I think we got a knit hat coming.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, we got that coming. So we're really excited to have these guys on board as a sponsor. So get down to check them out on Facebook. I believe they're on Instagram. Check them out, man. They got the best hats, I think, in the Fox Valley, if not in the state.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. So get down to 920 Hat Company on social media and check them out. And cut. That's what I would do for the music now. We got cut it short. So everybody, thanks for joining us. Typically we're live. We've changed things up a little bit. We are just going back to recorded. It's a lot easier. It's a little more flexible for the guys we talk to because these guys have busy lives. This is an episode of the Vision Quest podcast. You guys are listening to it. Some of you might see clips later on when I put them out, but we are talking to currently Coach Scotti Sentes of Campbell Wrestling. Thank you for joining me, Coach. It's been a while. We talked about this a couple times in the past, and now we got it together. So thank you for taking the time out to join me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm excited. Just so you know, that intro got me fired up. That music just gets your blood boiling, huh?
It does. It was a local guy too. I didn't want to use the whole Vision Quest theme song because I didn't want to get, sued or things like that. So I was like, hey, I come up with my own thing. Local guy was like, hey, what can you come up with for me? And I said, here's what I like. I like a little bit of crazy, I'm a country guy, but I'm not like Tim McGraw, right? Like I'm that weird Jamie Johnson type country that brought back old school. So he kind of mixed that with a little bit of like rock. It's fun. It's fun. I'm glad I fired you up because we're going to get going here. We got some talking to do. So exciting year so far for you with some changes coming up that we'll talk about in a little bit. But obviously, like we always do on the show, we kind of talk about your whole life, right? We kind of talk about things leading up into wrestling, and we're not going to kind of dive into, like I told you, what your favorite cereals were. We'll talk a little bit about parents. Support systems are always big for wrestlers, right? And things like that. So, where were your beginnings, I guess, wrestling wise? I know you came from Florida, right? So you're a Southern boy. Wrestling wasn't, I guess, huge then, but I mean, we still got, guys like, I'm trying to think of a couple of guys that came out of Florida in the past, but it just hasn't been huge. So what was that like for you being in Florida and coming up in a wrestling environment? Was that sparse fighting competition?
I mean, we went all over. I started wrestling when I was 2 years old. I had diapers on. So there's a match of me wrestling Eric Grajales, with street shoes on. That's awesome. I took my rollerblades off and put my wrestling shoes on and wrestled them. So wrestled my whole life. My dad coached. He was the first in our first ever as wrestler, and he loved it. He got my brother into it, who's 6 years older than me. He went on to wrestle at University of Michigan.
Okay.
And then my sister wrestled. So my dad was one of the early people putting females in wrestling. She's 3 years older than me. And then I came up, and we were that family every Saturday. We were loading in the car and driving 3 hours north to Bradenton, Florida to wrestle the same two people every weekend. We were that family.
I love this mix of there are a lot of guys out there that had parents that were either high level athletes, things like that, and then you got the kids that, well, my parents never wrestled, they didn't play any sports, so they had no clue what was going on with me. Whereas you're kind of in the middle of the road now, where your dad was, he was involved in sports, obviously knew about the sport, got you guys all involved in sports, or in wrestling especially. But where was he in wrestling? Was your dad a wrestler?
Yeah, he was a wrestler in high school. He wasn't like a college wrestler or anything like that, but I think he was pretty troubled kid. He talks about his history, and I think it was a rough, he had a rough life, and wrestling kind of got him on track. And so he put us in it. He just knew the values that wrestling instilled. And so it became a big part of our family. My mom, my dad, my brother, my sister, he coached. When he got out of coaching, he still finds his way in. I mean, he's just one of those guys that loves wrestling and
that's
kind
awesome.
of off on us a little bit.
That's awesome. And I think a lot of times too, I have my youngest, Liam, is 17. I played high level sports when I was younger. I played soccer. That was my gig. But knowing just, things have changed, right? So the things that you went through, because watching some of your video, like 2011 at Central Michigan, stuff like that, and watching some of the matches you had, and just the competition that you had to go through, was your dad, I guess, aware of, and obviously he had connections with other coaches, but was he aware of like all these tournaments that were out there? Because you said you started young, your siblings were in it. Were you going to like Tulsa's and things like that as a kid? Like what was your dad's theory on that?
Yeah, no, we were going all over though. I had a coach, like a national coach. His name was Joe Blasucci, phenomenal coach. He's he's one of those razor edge coaches where like the one, you either hate him or you love him. There's no in between. So most of the state hates the guy. But he's awesome. He would take all of us knuckleheads up and all around the country doing NHSCA duels, which was really big. And Super 32, we did that. I think in that time that just people didn't know who was good and who wasn't good. Flow wrestling had just come out. There weren't all these rankings. And so I was a little bit under the radar. There even historically I'm the most Super 32 medals or something.
Really?
Right? Like I think I have like 5 or something crazy like that. And, I won it once and still people didn't know you. Cause at that point, when I started at Super 32, it was in a high school gym.
Wow.
High school gym. We stayed in a trailer out back, like an RV. We stayed in an RV. There was 4 of us. I slept on the floor of an RV and got up and wrestled in Super 32 in the parking lot.
And I say that's awesome in a sense of that must have been, like fun to, especially thinking about, but at the time, probably not awesome sleeping on the floor.
It was awesome. So we had a legendary coach and he's so good. He passed away. But he was an incredible, he made it so fun. Like we had wrestling class, we played games. Half the time it was like we played football for practice. And then the other half was live wrestling. And he's actually part of he owned a carnival, and so we'd all work carnies in the summer, and that's how we paid for summer camp. And so it was like a carny coming up,
that sounds like Florida though. That sounds like Florida.
Yeah, and that's what would pay for our events and things like that. We'd go and help them work, and dude, it was just such great memories traveling around and earning our keep, right? Like our parents were paying for our camps, and he gave us the opportunity to earn it, and so while having fun, we were learning how to work and earn our own money.
It's like thinking about the Palmers wrestling bears at like circuses and stuff like that when those guys travel.
I was taking little kids' money and they'd try to pop the balloon and I'd spray on it so that it would roll off it.
Slide off. That's awesome. So much fun to be had. So, I mean, it's not like you were you were placing at high school state at 8th grade. You're one of them dudes.
My Joe Blasucci will never let me hear the end of it. He said, I got too high, with the boots in. So,
I was just watching you wrestle Zach Thomas and from Michigan, and I'm pretty sure I heard the same thing. Watch the boots, don't get too high. He can feel it. Feel it. So we'll talk about that a little bit too, because I kind of, it was fun watching you wrestle, especially against Tyler Graff. And you had mentioned that he beat you up at Midlands, but then you beat him at NCAAs, and I think that was the match I watched. But it's interesting to see the contrast and background. So like you said, your dad was a high school wrestling coach, but he had a great network, it sounds like, with these other guys that he was able to get you in touch with and have you around. And with that type of wrestling around, what do you feel like that was really kind of the beginning of Florida kind of coming up in wrestling? Because I mean, we're talking about states like right now, Georgia and those that have been coming up, right? It's been kind of a slow climb, but making their way up. Was that kind of a starting point of Florida wrestling?
It's hard to tell because I was in the middle of it, right? But you had Brandon, Florida. That was one of the best teams in the country. You had Cozart, you had the Grajales brothers. I mean, you had a lot of really great wrestlers winning and competing well in Fargo and national events. South Dade was really good at that time. We've always had some really good wrestlers. I think Florida's, doing a lot of the right things right now. I know they got BB Train down there. They got a couple different really great clubs that are growing and getting more and more wrestlers into freestyle, which I think is really important. I had never wrestled freestyle coming up.
Okay.
That's probably why I became such a good top wrestler, is I never had to transition between the two styles. But I don't know when it started or where it's good. It's always seemed like they've had some good wrestlers. It's just maybe the depth's not always there,
Yeah, for sure. And that could speak for, a couple different states out there. It's not just Florida, but I mean, it's just great to see now, especially you got Mako down there. You got, like you're talking about, and you got Lugo, who just moved his stuff down there. So it's definitely not just sitting around waiting anymore. They're definitely doing stuff down there. So it's good to see. As you were kind of growing up as a kid, was wrestling something like it? Were you trying other sports? Was wrestling only the thing? Was that it? Your dad only had you on the one track, or was he kind of like, you guys got to try other stuff?
We were that guy. I was the dude when I hit 8th grade. They held me back a year because I wasn't big enough to wrestle in high school. Private school. I was that. I'm just your typical wrestling guy.
Yeah. Okay.
And I had such good grades. The only way they could hold me back was put me in a private school. So they had to shift me over to a private Christian school just in order to hold me back because my grades were so good. They said they're going to hold me back. I said, okay, good luck. I'm going to get straight A's, right?
Yeah.
So we were that fam. We were the little bit of the crazy wrestling family. It ended up working out. I think a lot of big doors open for me because I was able to mature a little bit and grow a little bit and obviously I got a little more opportunity because of that. So it was a smart move, but at the time you don't want to do it.
Yeah, well, yeah, sure. It wasn't like it was any like cattle prods like Kerry Colot and things like that, right? Like, getting chased like that. So it worked out. It worked out for what you guys are doing and the way you guys are going about it. And there's no shame in a lot of that. When I hear about guys, just different ways that they come up, there's always something you can take away from something, right? I mean, are there things now that you do in your coaching that kind of goes along with what you kind of learned coming up?
Yeah, I'd say the biggest thing over time is have fun, have the kids have fun. I learned a lot of that from Chris Hayward, who was my high school coach. And I think my dad was real serious with my older brother and he was a little less successful. And with me, he sort of took a step back from being a coach and just was a dad with me. And I had a lot more success. So I always try to, kind of meet the kid where he's at, try to make it fun. I think that's really important for our sport. I think, it's already hard enough as it is. You don't need to run somebody in the ground that's trying their best, right?
That's true. Very true. And I run into that. I mean, God, still, and I'm not even the coach anymore with my son as a parent, trying to not hammer home too much, but I've always expected 110%. That like, I don't know technique like these guys do anymore. Like it's different, right? I wrestled till my junior year and I was horrible. So I kind of reserve a lot of that stuff for the coaches. And I'm just the guy that expects, just give me the energy. I just need the energy. As long as I see it, the rest will come with it. Right. So where were you in the eyes of trying to, just having such, a good background as far as just a solid background in wrestling coming up? What were your thoughts towards college and wrestling? Where were you thinking about already as a freshman in high school? Like, hey, I can't wait till I get phone calls. Like, what were your thoughts towards it? Just kind of going into the process, especially with the people that you have around you.
I was clueless as to college wrestling. Right.
Yeah.
I went to the Michigan camp every year, but I was the guy that my brother would get mad at me because I wouldn't do the intensive camp. I just wanted to do the technique camp. It's summertime. I'm not trying to run and do push-ups, brother. Right. Look, at the end of the camp, when they do the tournament day, I'll beat the crap out of all your buddies' friends. And right. Like, so I just was a little bit clueless. I just really liked wrestling. I had a little bit of an edge to me, a little bit of out of high school, probably a wild side. And at that time, I knew I was going to college, but it wasn't anything I thought of. I went and visited Central Michigan. I had a bunch of visits lined up, and I'm sort of a pull the trigger kind of guy. I loved it. Canceled all my visits. I went to Central, right? And he went to talk to me about what the scholarship was looking like. I said, hey, talk to my parents about that. Like, I'm coming here, working out.
Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, I didn't. It just I knew what I wanted to do. I was laser focused. I went there. I saw what Tom was doing. I could tell he was going to hold me accountable, and I knew at least I was mature enough to know I needed that. And like I said, that guy definitely changed my life because I think I don't know if I would have made it in a lot of other programs, but he got me right, and he got me right really fast.
I've heard some really good things about Coach Borelli. In as far as, and I've never met the guy. I've only watched, duels, things like that, and seen a couple interviews. So, but I've heard a lot of good things about him in general, especially once the retirement came around and people kind of asking questions about him. They're like, man, he's helped so many kids. So it definitely sounds like that's the kind of guy he was. So I would take it that you probably learned a lot from Coach Borelli when it comes to the coaching aspect of it, along with your dad. I mean, your dad's still a part of that group, but where were what were your intentions when you went into college wrestling? Because a lot of kids obviously are going to go in for their 4 years. Maybe they're done, right? Were you, because you talked about getting into freestyle late, did you find yourself liking freestyle at all? Or you're like, no,
I didn't like freestyle until I got to Campbell and worked under Carey. And then I was exposed to it because Tom didn't really do me. We would have the RTC freestyle, but we just were doing folk style. Right. And then he might send us to an event and I wouldn't know the rules. I'd pick somebody up in a double leg and walk out of bounds with them and give them a point. Like I had no idea what was going on. Yeah. And so I didn't get into freestyle till later. Like I said, I was just wrestling because it was fun. I loved winning. I enjoyed winning. I knew it just kind of kept me on the straight and narrow. That was the reason why I got good grades at the time, was because of wrestling. And it wasn't until I met my now wife and we had a kid that I grew up really quick, right? I was in college. Yeah. So that's when I started to figure out, okay, what am I doing the rest of my life? Right. What do I want to do for a career? And kind of had to snap into it pretty quick.
So you went to, you got an English major at Central Michigan, right?
English and poetry. It only took a couple extra classes to get that, throw that in there,
Okay, so the arts. So we have the arts under control. So because of that, okay, because that's still not like a totally easy, unless you're good at it, right? You have to dedicate a certain amount of time to that, right? So and you got good grades. So that's a big thing that we try to talk about on here, is like the work/life balance when it comes to school. I mean, that's not an easy degree, as much as people want to say, oh, it's an English degree. It's not easy. I wanted to go to school for that. And I was like, oh no, I'm not doing that.
It's hard. There's a lot of books.
I was going to say,
learn to write papers. The reason I did is I knew I wanted to be a coach. I wanted to learn how to talk to people, how to communicate with people, how to write emails, how to get my ideas across. And I thought coaching, English would help with that, right? Learning how to structure an argument, learning how to communicate. And so I did it. When I got to the later levels, I was in that classroom raising my hand. I was talking to people. I had a guy named, Pete Puckett, who's now a professor. I swear he would spoon feed it to me like I was a baby. He would say, read this paragraph. I would read it and he'd say, what does that mean? I'd say, I have no clue. And he'd walk me through the whole thing, right? And I would just bring him a pizza. He was like
awesome.
Second string guy on the team and just super smart. And I'd bring him a pizza and just have him baby it to me until I figured it out. What took him probably 10 minutes took me an hour, but I would grind at it and figure it out,
But you had that dude that gave you the angle, right? He gave you that angle to figure it out, which is key. I mean, a lot of guys think that going to college is like, oh yeah, it's just, no, it's not like high school at all. When it comes to education, anything, it's all different. It's all, you go into a classroom, things like that, but the focus is different. Now I try to explain this to Liam. I said, you're getting paid to be here. This is now kind of a job. So you have to learn that balance of what you're doing. The thing that I have a question on, though, is that you started early. Your Cal Poly college coaching career started right after college, wasn't it?
Yep. Fresh out of college. Went right to work with Brendan Buckley at Cal Poly.
Because I know there are going to be some kids and parents with questions like this, because there are kids that want to stick in wrestling, right? This is their goal, is when they're done, I really want to be in wrestling, but I don't know what I have to do to stay in it. What does it take, if that's your goal? What does it take to jump into a career like that? And that quickly? Was it just someone needing a hand and reaching out, or did they reach out to you? How does that networking work out like that?
Oh, I don't remember exactly how that one worked. Obviously in Division I, college wrestling, I think having success gives you a little bit of a leg up. They're looking for workout partners. But there's a lot more that goes behind the scenes in coaching. They're looking for people to help them with their budget, help them with, recruiting and fundraising. They're looking for people to help them with their budget sheets, to do the paperwork. I mean, there's a lot more to it that people don't see. And so being able to go and actually talk to people and meet people and having a good reputation from your coach that you're going to work hard and that you're going to learn and that you're going to do what's needed to be done. That's the best thing about, being a wrestler is you have a coach that's going to tell the truth about you. And that's why, every employer is going to be able to reach out to a coach and say, what do you know about this? Because I'm telling you, Tom Borelli knows how I act when I'm tired. He knows what I'm going to do when things get hard. And you really have 4 or 5 years in college to make a really great reputation for yourself. And, I tried really hard to make sure I had a good reputation with Tom Borelli and my teammates because I knew people would ask questions down the road about me.
Good to know. Keep your nose clean, do the right thing. And honestly, most of the guys that want to stay within the sport typically, are all right, for the most part, but things happen. And just, I think the big thing to me, cause that's what Liam wants to stick with it. He wants to own a coach and things like that. And it's like, God, I say, you can't just walk into an RTC job, man. Like you have to, there's work that still goes into it. And it's like you said, reputation, guys knowing that you're willing to work and things like that. Whereas if people start hearing that you're just dropping the ball and stuff constantly, they're not going to want you around. So, and that's any employer, right? That's any employer. Any employer finds that out about you. That's what they're going to say. So with your transition from sports into coaching, how were your, because I mean, you were already talking about, being married and stuff too, right? Being in college, right?
Yeah, I had my son, my son, Sega. He's going into high school next year. I had him when I was a junior in college.
Okay.
I didn't get married until a little bit later.
Yep.
But had to grow up really quick, had to work through college, had to figure things out. Yeah.
That's another interesting thing, because how do you have time for a job when you're practicing as much and then you're also you studying and things like that? Like where time management, like
you do what you need to do and you do it
cow
as hard as you can do it. And, every wrestler does that, right? I mean, sure, some sleepless nights, you got to get up, throw the weight around. You got to put your head in the books. You got to do what you need to do and perform at the same level, if not better than your classmates, even though they went to bed at 4:00, you were up working out or doing what you needed to do. You still got to get up and outperform those guys in the classroom. And, you just try to develop an elite level mindset is what you try to do. And you just do what needs to get done. It's as simple as that. Do what needs to get done.
So you're a grinder. You're a guy that it doesn't matter what's in front of you, get it done. I mean, I don't do, I always tell everybody this, I don't do digging. Like I watch some of your matches, right? But I didn't look to see who you dealt with in the past, whatever happened. Is kind of one of those things I want to find out. And I'm listening to you. It's like, holy cow, like you were working, you had kids, you had a relationship, you had sports, and then you had school, and you dealt with all of that and still graduated with a major and a minor, and you still were able to get into coaching ASAP. So that says a lot, right? I mean, there's a lot of character there. And we also talk about, the time that you spend, doing those things, the more that you realize the hard work pays off kind of thing, and, instant gratification. Were you ever at a point where you wanted to quit wrestling?
If you've ever wrestled, come on, you've been to that point. It's like the Mike Tyson quote: "You got to do what you hate to do, like you love it sometimes."
Yeah.
And I would say I loved it a lot more than I ever hated it. And
okay.
When I got to college, I loved it. I loved the grind, but there were times in middle school or, that you get bored with it or whatever. Things were really easy at the time, but when it got harder and it was challenging, I enjoyed it. I'm one of those guys that love winning more than I hate losing. Like a loss I can get over pretty quick. And that's probably, I wasn't as good of a wrestler as some, but I always thought I was going to win. I loved winning. I liked the trash talk even more than winning. And what gave me an edge is like I could bounce back quick from getting somebody taking me down early or, losing in a tournament. I mean, where most guys, they can't dust themselves off. It didn't matter to me. I was already past it. I wanted to win the next one. Right.
Okay. Man, we have to get like your genetics, put it in a bottle, and then we need to save that because that needs to like go through generations, in my opinion. To me, it's what's missing in a lot of stuff, right? I don't think it's necessarily missing the kids. It's missing in parenting, like just trying to push your kids to that point, whether they're in sports or not. Sometimes you got to do whatever you got to do to make something happen, right? And I've failed. I've done plenty in the past that I just failed on it. I didn't do what I had to do. But there are a lot of situations as you have kids. Same thing with me with my oldest son. Like, I didn't want to have kids, but I had to all of a sudden become mentally and financially prepared for a child. Just got to do it. You just got to do it. So as you get into this coaching position at Cal Poly, I always think it's interesting you're on one area of the country and you went over to the next area of the country. What was that like for you going there, especially, having family and things like that? How was that transition for you guys?
It was tough. I mean, I think I went up for the first couple months by myself. I had to leave my wife and son because I had to find a place to live. I had to earn enough money to where I could bring her here. Like, we went there with nothing. And
wow.
Cal Poly was so expensive. I was losing money every month. So
man.
We were broke, but we loved coaching. The area is phenomenal. I mean, the education you get there is phenomenal. I mean, it's if you've never looked into Cal Poly, there's very few places in the world like Cal Poly. And so we had a lot of fun and met a lot of really cool people there. But like I said, it wasn't a place at that time, the support that we were getting. I mean, as an assistant coach, we were losing money, right? We were paying to be there and coach. And so eventually had to move on and took the job at Campbell a couple years down the road.
Yeah, it was like 2 or 3 years or something like that, and you wound up there. And then what was it? Because you didn't even know about Campbell. You had no idea Campbell existed until Kerry called you, but he called you, and was it just a proposal of like, hey, we'd really like you to come out? Was it more professional in the beginning, or just we really want you to join the team, come check it out, kind of thing? How did that go for you?
So I had to leave, Cal Poly. My job at the time, Brendan Buckley, he's the head coach, and anytime a head coach leaves, if you're an assistant, you're scratching your head trying to figure out what you're going to do. So he took the executive director job at Beat the Streets, has done a phenomenal job there, and he was moving to New York. So I don't know what I'm going to do, and I had a couple schools reach out, some really good ones, and there were actually some other opportunities that I really wanted to do, but my wife, they were where it's cold, right? And she's like, we're not doing it, right? At that she had just gotten used to California.
Yeah,
she wasn't ready to make that move, and so I listened to Kerry, came down and kind of saw what he was trying to do here. At the time, they were really bad. I mean, they were almost not allowed to compete in the NCAA tournament because their grades were so poor. I think they were like, you might have to look it up, 4-11 or 2-11. They were really, really bad.
Wow.
And I came there. Andrew Morgan followed me, who was basically Cal Poly's best wrestler. And it was turned around in a year. We were able to pull together a really good recruiting class, and we went from 10-11 or whatever the record was to winning the conference.
Yes.
A year later having our first All-American in Nathan Kreiser. And they started investing a lot at that time, built a new wrestling room, did a lot of really cool things for the program. And so it was really fun to be a part of that growth. And just how fast it came was pretty amazing.
So and then you get there in time for, what was it? I don't know how soon after COVID hit, but we're going to have the C word around for a little bit in discussions as far as wrestling goes. But the COVID hit, and what was it like at number one at Campbell for COVID? Because it's a smaller program, right? And small things get impacted by large things differently. So how was that? Was there an air of like kind of caution of what could happen around there after COVID, when COVID was going on, like this could end the program possibly? Was there any kind of talk like that at all at the time?
No, not at the time. No. So here's what happened. So right before COVID came, when they canceled the NCAA tournament, that was Kerry's last year, right?
Yes.
So after it was canceled, Colat left, the athletic director left, there was some leadership that left. There was a lot of really big changes in that time. And so it was my first year ever being a head coach. It was my athletic director's first year, Omar Banks. We've gone through 2 athletic directors now. We're on the second. It was both our first times being a leader, right? And I think that first year, right after Colat left, we lost 17 guys just because they had come there for Kerry, and 17 guys left. And so we had to basically rebuild it all. And so to be able to bounce back and win the conference tournament after losing 17 guys was pretty surprising. And it was really hard because, we have Duke right up the road, and we do have a medical school, a DO school. And so we were very, very cautious with everything with COVID. And we had such a large roster that we would have to split our practices into two. And we'd have all these cleaning things we had to do in between practices. And then if anyone got COVID, it was on the coaches to take care of them, to deliver food. So we were there from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. as coaches, Monday through Friday. And just because we all wanted to be at both practices, we had to make sure they get food, which we try to rotate. You're waiting for these kids to come out because you're not allowed to give it to them. You're not allowed to go to their door. So you had to it was the weirdest thing. And thank goodness I've gotten really lucky with the coaches that I've been able to hire. They've made all these things a lot easier than they probably could have been. But it was a really tough time to lead for sure.
Yeah. Especially when it's, your first time around, right? Like now you have enough red tape as it is. Now you add 5,000 more strips of red tape in front of you to get through it.
I remember one rule. It was, this is ridiculous. We could run in a circle to warm up in one direction. Okay. But if one person faced the other direction, everyone's contact traced. So one person would stop and turn around and tie their shoe, and they were like, contact trace, and they're writing it down. And I'm like, this is crazy. And there was
wear masks, but go ahead and sweat on each other.
Rules that and at the time, honestly, I didn't know any better. I didn't know any better either. I was doing whatever I needed to do.
I'm not a doctor. I just I thought it was just because we were going through the same stuff here. Even with just little kid stuff in middle school, but it just threw me that we were having kids wearing masks while they're grabbing each other and sweating on each other. Like,
I remember being asked, "Is there any way you can do wrestling without contact?" And I was like, "There's no chance."
You've got to be kidding me.
We're only going to teach super ducks. That's it. That's all we're teaching.
And then as soon as you're down, I'm just like this. You're out. Okay, we're good. That's crazy. So you were thrown into a challenging time. You made success out of it. So and that's kind of what I've noticed too, reading through some of your background, is that you started coaching early, but you've been doing a fucking phenomenal job, dude. Like even as an assistant coach, you're building, all Americans. And now you're coming into a small school in North Carolina, and you're building a championship type team. So that sticks out in my head is just the knowledge of okay, what does this guy do? Is this a Moneyball thing for him? Can he see things in guys that some coaches don't? Right? And don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that it's the end of the world kind of thing. Like people should stop and study it, but it sticks out in my brain seeing a young guy like that being able to come up and have that success. So you know what you're doing. What are your goals now? Because we talked a little bit about you going from coaching now into the business world, which is going to help everything, like you said, a wide variety of things for wrestlers in the wrestling community. What did you find as the most challenging thing in coaching that you think will help into the new business world here?
Okay. Yeah. First of all, thank you for the things you said. That's really nice of you, kind of two-part to answer the part of this. I've just been surrounded by some really good people. I've gotten lucky with some hires and I've leaned a lot on the group around me. And so it's not like a one-man thing. It's you get a little bit lucky sometimes with the hires you make. And I've made some really good hires each year. I've been surrounded by some really good people. Just in terms of coaching staff and things like that. Going into this next role, one thing I've always preached and I've believed in is setting guys up for the rest of their lives. And I really care about wrestling. Wrestling's very important in my family. My dad's part of the Florida Wrestling Coaches Hall of Fame. My brother's a wrestling coach. He actually was an AD, and he wanted to touch more kids' life and be closer to the action. That he left his AD job to go back to coaching. And so our whole family has sort of we're about changing people's lives. That's more important to me than the wins and the losses. And when Wrestlers in Business Network reached out, I knew about the NWCA. I know about Mike Moyer. I know that, he genuinely cares about wrestling on the high school and the college level more than any other organization I've ever seen. And I can speak that to fact. I've seen the values, their mission statement, and they would amaze you if you were to read these things. And they're written in a way that, one of the things is integrity, right? He's genuinely looking out for the betterment every college program, every high school program, and that impressed me. And to be a part of something I think can help protect wrestling long term, the Wrestlers in Business Network. I think that's exciting. Like I said, I can only reach so many people as a college coach, and I get a chance to really help wrestling on all levels. Yeah. And I'm really excited about it. I mean, I still have a lot to learn. I'm not there yet. I've just been studying. I understand what the mission is now. I've read into a lot of the strategies. Some of these I'm not allowed to talk about them yet, but
sure. Yeah.
I'm very impressed with the integrity of the organization. Like,
that's good.
To read behind the scenes and see it, you don't know what people are thinking. It's pretty amazing.
It's good. Well, and I think just with the brain power that you've shown and things like that, I think obviously it's going to be a good step. I can see the things that you're talking about and kind of envision what you're trying to put together, and it does work. I mean, we talked about it earlier, how many of these kids that are going into college when they're so sports driven, mm-hmm. that piece outside of that just is not clicking, right? They just don't think about it quite yet. But to be able to have services like yours and community leaders around that they have connections with and things like that, if they have guys like you around that can put it in place with them, it only helps, right? I mean,
there's nobody more prepared for the workforce than wrestlers. There's nobody more prepared, and it's just giving them the opportunities. I think that we're so focused and so driven while we're in college on focusing on the schoolwork, focusing on the wrestling, focus on performing, adapting, that sometimes we miss out on planning for the future. And that's kind of where we come in, is to make it easy on them. Just fill this thing out, open the doors, let them decide, because they are, like, I've been there as a head coach, and I've had WIBN reach out, and it's important, but you're just so driven on what's in front of you as a competitor, whether it be as a coach or an athlete, that I think an organization like this is extremely important for our sport.
Right on. You mentioned a couple things as far as missions and things like that. You've been on a mission. So the question I have now is that $100,000 in a couple weeks, right? Like, you killed it in fundraising. Is now the only thing that I it's not a question in a bad way, but I ask is, were you able and wanted, because a lot of times coaches kind of, they're like, well, I'm done here. It's kind of like, not that they give up, they're just kind of like relinquishing what they need to do kind of thing. But you kept going and you got that amount. I feel like is it an indicator of who might be staying? Did they announce like a head coach at all at Campbell?
No, they're talking to people, they're talking to people in house. They're talking to people out of house. They talked to the team. They told the team, hey, we're in communication with hiring new coaches. Okay. Yeah. I'm there if they want to use me or have questions. I know they're reaching out. They're talking to other coaches and asking about other coaches. And so they're doing their work to try to find the right person.
Okay. A lot of respect to you for doing that. But I mean, because again, a lot of coaches are like, I'm done coaching at the program. It's not that they didn't like it or anything, they're just kind of done. So they stopped doing it. You're still working. So it kind of, the conspiracy theory in my brain says that you kind of know who is taking over, and it's someone that's there. You don't want to leave them with something that's not, not good. But obviously that's just me being a conspiracy theorist. So I tried to get that out of there, but
no, it's not. Here's the honest truth. The alumni and the former coaches, they're genuine close friends of mine that'll be friends of mine for the rest of my life. Like, that's awesome. I'm really close with, I just went to church today with Coach Jerry Hartman, who coached in the 80s, right?
Yeah.
And so
that's awesome.
Sort of the connections that I've made here and the friendships that I made, you have a responsibility to do a really good job. And, I wasn't thinking about leaving. I mean, I was thinking about leaving when I was fundraising, but it wasn't decided. Right?
Sure. Yeah.
Once we kind of hit it, I felt a little better about moving on and it being in a good place for somebody else to come in, and that they'll have some resources to work with. And there's never a good time to leave. There's always kids that you feel bad leaving behind, and friends and connections, and there's never a good time. And it just seemed like the best time I was going to get. And this was a great opportunity where I'll still be able to help those guys and
awesome.
Still be able to have those relationships.
Well, congrats to you on that jump. You know, it's gonna be fun to watch you from there. Are you gonna have to relocate? Do you move, or do you get to stay where you're at?
Yeah, so I'll work remotely for July, and then August I'll move up to Pennsylvania.
Oh shit! Yep. All right. Well, dude, it's been fun watching you coach. It's been fun watching you, and just watching some of the matches I've been able to see, and seeing you coach the years. Because I tell you, we've been going to Super 32 since Kerry started there. And then when you kind of started, like Liam he was young, little kid, right? And I had no idea Campbell existed, just like you guys. And we were just driving around North Carolina after Super 32. I'm like, there's Campbell University right there. We just wanted to drive past it. Liam was like, that's kind of a cool campus. So you guys kind of sparked that thing in an 8-year-old brain already, just seeing campus and being able to see a college. And but I'm excited for the next steps you're taking. Again, we're excited to see what you do. It's a great thing that you did. For the university and the program itself. Because again, a lot of guys just kind of walk away. They're like, oh, this is what you got kind of thing. You at least had the wherewithal to think of a program and say, I want to leave it better, maybe than what I came into or whatever it is. So that's awesome. You have something to get to take care of the rest of the day here today. You have kids that have stuff going on. So we want to get out of your hair. We appreciate you joining us. You ever want to hop on and talk about stuff with WIBN? Feel free to hit us up. I'm sure you guys have your own network of where you get in touch with too of that stuff, but we're willing to have you on. But it was great being able to talk to you, Coach, and good luck in the future. You got any shout outs you want to give here?
No, I don't, man, but I appreciate it. Like I said, we'll stay in touch, man. I love your guys' Twitter account and stuff. So, yeah, man, we'll stay in touch. Once I get situated, maybe I'll reach back out and we'll talk some more about what I'm doing there.
All right, man. I'm going to hit some music here quick. I just want to talk to you once I hit end, and we'll talk for a minute. We'll be done. But everybody, this has been another episode of the Vision Quest podcast with Coach Scotti Sentes. Appreciate it, man. All of our episodes are brought to you by Appleton Tattoo, located at 117 South Appleton Street in Appleton, Wisconsin, right off the main drag on College Avenue. You can't miss them. I've had some work done. I have a Celtic cross that covers my back that was done by Jason. We're not done yet. Jason Winans and crew, the artists that he have there, those guys are the best in the Fox Valley. They are definitely one to go to if it's something that you've just been kind of throwing around. They'll make you feel comfortable. It's a very clean environment. Very nice crew, and very willing to get done whatever you need done when you need it done. You can message them on Facebook. I know they're on Facebook. You can give them a call at 920-604-8289 and get in touch with Jason Winans and crew at Appleton Tattoo, located again in Appleton, Wisconsin at 117 South Appleton Street, right in Appleton. Very flexible hours, great crew, clean environment again. I would not send you anywhere else except for these guys. Appleton Tattoo.